Hey, sophomores. This is Mr. Peppersack. I got a little bit of eye problem today, but I'm here to give you the summary from pages 11 through 21. All right. That was due yesterday, your work on that. So here's the summary. I hope you're watching these summaries before you do move on so that you're kind of understanding and that we're all on the same page. Anyway, just want to let you know that this is a section where Nick meets Miss Baker, and he sees his cousin Daisy, and he comes into this room with Tom, and these two women are dressed in all white, and they look like they're kind of like angels floating around because the windows are all open, and so there's a lot of like sunlight and breeze coming through, and so it's supposed to be kind of like look like they're floating type thing, just a way for them to meet them for the first time. Nick, of course, Daisy is Nick's cousin, second cousin once removed, and you could Google that to see actually how far away those would be from each other. But I couldn't even tell you who my second cousin is, especially once removed. You might meet them and not even know that you're related until later. Anyway, we also find out that Tom and Daisy have a kid, and the kid is 2 years old, but Daisy still calls the kid a baby. It says a little bit about Daisy and what she sort of thinks about parenthood and so on, or maturing. We also find out that Nick enjoys looking at Miss Baker. She's pretty, she's slender, she's athletic, she's actually a professional golfer. And then we get to page 14, and it has a super famous line that I wanted you to just notice. Nick mentions that he lives in West Egg, and Miss Baker says, "Oh, then you must know somebody there, or who do you know, or where do you live?" And he says he lives by these huge mansions and so on. And then Miss Baker says, "Well, you must know Gatsby." And as soon as Miss Baker says that, Nick's like, he was going to respond, but then everybody's called to dinner. But then Daisy's reaction is what was supposed to really jump out at us. So we're supposed to understand at this point that Daisy knows Gatsby somehow. So it's interesting because she says, "Gatsby? What Gatsby?" That's what Daisy says. So they have a history together. We'll find out later. Let me see. We find out that the time of year is summer. It's actually 2 weeks before the longest day of the year, which is called summer solstice. So that's a time in New York where it'll be warm for sure during the day, maybe a little cooler at night, but like nighttime starts like much later. So because of the solstice getting close to the longest day of the year. They eat dinner. It's not a rush dinner at all. They have butlers and people serving them. It's not like, Daisy had to do any cooking or anything like that. And they're enjoying the wine and talking and so on. Tom comes up with a topic that shows his true colors at dinner. Towards the end of dinner, we find out that he's pretty much a racist. He's definitely a bigot. Similar things, similar concepts. He shares his beliefs that the white race has to keep the other races down, or the other races will take over, and then the white race will be gone. This is 1922, so this is way before segregation is ended, and it's really only 60 years after the end of slavery, the Civil War. So it's definitely 100 years ago from now, roughly, and obviously there's going to be quite a bit of racism at that time period. Sad, but it's the history of what we have. It's not a huge part of the book, that racism part, but it does come into play a little bit here. Anyway, there's a phone call that interrupts dinner, and we find out from Jordan one when Daisy leaves the room to go see Tom and why he's on the phone for so long. But we find out that Tom has a woman. We call that a mistress in New York City. So Tom comes back and whatever, they finish eating, and then there's another phone call. So Tom and Jordan, after the phone call and dinner's over, end up in the library reading, and there's nothing between them, even if you think there is. And Daisy and Nick sit out on a veranda, which is like a sort of a patio porch-ish thing connected to the house. Most verandas are found on like bigger mansion type houses. Beautiful. And during this time period, right at the end of the pages 20-21, Daisy admits that she knows that Tom has been unfaithful. In fact, Tom wasn't even there when the baby was born. And so Daisy went through that all by herself, wondering where Tom was. And Daisy, this is a sad thing. Daisy says that she's sad that she had a girl, and she hopes that it will just be kind of dumb, or not dumb, but unintelligent, so that the baby girl doesn't realize that it's tough being a woman in the 1920s. So there's also that inequality coming into play. And the evening ends at around 10 o'clock. Nick realizes at that time, after the whole dinner, that he knows Jordan Baker from her pictures on the cover of sports magazines. So they have this whole dinner, and they don't really talk about Jordan Baker that much, even though Nick is attracted to her. And then they finally find out that, or he realizes that she's a professional golfer. All right, so that's the end of the reading for this week that was due today. There's a new reading assignment along with this, and make sure you annotate as you have been. All right, hopefully you're all well. Hopefully you all look better than this eye. Oh, doesn't feel great, but I'm all good. Bye, guys.